So today we're talking about alternative fuels in firewood. As we move forward into the economic collapse, the Second Great Depression, and possibly World War III, we're going to be in a situation where we have to provide heat for ourselves. So in the SHTF, water, food, and heat are critical. If you don't have these items, then you don't have life support. So these three items are basic life support. And when we look at alternative firewood, over the years I've used a lot of them. Back when I used to do a lot of side work in landscaping, tree work, and construction, I used to get a lot of ornamental trees from storm damage, and we would burn those. Now, this is a hawthorn tree, and a lot of these hawthorn trees have multiple large trunks. This trunk that broke during the last thunderstorm is about 12 inches in diameter to butt. So each stalk of this tree or trunk of this tree is about the size of a regular tree that most people would think about. Now, on my farm, I've got some trees that are as tall as 150, 200 feet. And it doesn't take many of those to provide a lot of firewood. This one will probably provide about a week and a half's worth of firewood. But what we want to do is talk about how we're going to use these woods. Now, just as a ballpark, we will use the BTU figures for white oak and red oak. White oak has a higher BTU count than red oak does. And what you're going to find is hawthorn like this falls in that range. It's a little bit more than red oak, but it's less than white oak. And it doesn't leave much ash. But on our homestead, we want to think about homestead production and manufacturing. So this hawthorn wood is a nice blonde wood, and it's gnarled. It has a lot of joints, and it has a lot of burls in it. And the trunk here, what I was going to do with that is cut that into lengths where I could use that to make candlesticks and possibly some lampstands. And the good thing about this is the wood is consistently white throughout the entire branch. So what that means is the core wood is the same color as the outer wood. So you don't have to worry about how much of this you can utilize for your woodworking. When we get into fruit tree wood, what you'll find is the core wood may be 1/3 to 2/3 of the diameter of the trunk. And what that means is the nicely figured darker wood is only a small portion of the trunk. So you have to figure that in when you're looking at making candlesticks, cups, and things like that on a lathe. Now, of course, this has thorns on it, and some of them can be 2 inches long. So when you're working with hawthorn or similar species, you got to wear gloves. And this wood burns hot, and it burns well when you cure it. The next thing we'll talk about is fruit wood. Now, we talk about different types of fruit trees. These right here are peach trees. I have this one that has passed away. And the thing about peach trees is their lifespan is only 15 to 20 years. And you compare that to other fruit trees, pear trees and apple trees, their lifespan is like 30 to 50 years. So these trees are all approaching 20 years old. This first one's died. The other two may have 2 or 3 years of life left in them. What we're going to look at is on a normal farm, what you would do is every 3 or 4 years you'd plant some more trees, and that way they rotate out. And you just cut the older ones down when they're unproductive or they die off. And what we want to do is look at using this fruit wood as a source. So whether it's peach, pear, apple, plum, or anything else, we can utilize this wood. When we look at the BTU count, this wood falls in between the red oak and white oak in BTUs also. Now, one of the characteristics is fruit tree wood actually burns cleaner and has less ash than the oak trees, which makes it really nice for small stoves. Now, when we look at utilizing some of this wood for making candlesticks, cups, lampstands, things like that, what we need to do is keep in mind that on these trees, we have a center of colored wood. This is the wood that we want to use in our woodworking. The light colored wood here, we would turn off on the lathe. And when we make something, we would make it out of this core wood. So when you're cutting this wood and you're looking at it, a piece this big, which is roughly 3 inches in diameter, you're not going to get enough of the core wood to make a candlestick. So what we have to do is look at stuff we would usually think would be too big. And when you're looking at this is a 6-inch piece. And you would have enough core on this to actually make candlesticks or cups or things like that. But with this fruit wood, you'd only have a small base area at the stump that you could turn a bowl out of. So what I like to do when I'm cutting firewood and it has a possible use as a source for woodworking, I usually cut it into 3-foot lengths. And what I'll show you here is this is about a 3-inch thick piece of peach. And you can see in here that we have enough of the darker wood that we could actually turn candlesticks or possibly a cup off of this. And with all the knots and burls in this wood, you'd get some good figure. Here's another piece that's about 3 inches. And that could also be used for candlesticks. Now, as an example, this is a privet type wood that I cut down in somebody's yard that was storm damaged. It is extremely hard, and it's an unusual species because it's not native. But I've had wood from all kinds of ornamental plants that I could use for woodworking, and it usually comes in small thicknesses. And what's not big enough to use for lathe turning, you can use for firewood. And I find that that kind of stuff burns really hot too. So please share your thoughts. We'll see you on the next video.